The question of whether or not we have free will has been debated by philosophers for centuries. The easy answer is yes, of course we do. We get to choose how we act, right? But what if it's not that simple? What if our seemingly free decisions are actually predetermined by outside forces beyond our control? In other words, are our decisions really our own? Hello and welcome back to our channel. Here you will find thought-provoking content about philosophy, psychology, and everything in between. Today we're going to explore both sides of this debate and let you decide for yourself. So sit back and enjoy the show. Side 1. Free will. We all like to think that we're the masters of our own destiny, that every decision we make is the result of careful consideration, and that we could have chosen to do otherwise. This is the idea of free will. It's the belief that we have the ability to choose between right and wrong, good and evil, and that we're responsible for the choices we make. Consider a simple example. Let S say you standing in front of an open door, and you need to make a decision. Go through the door or don't go through the door. If you choose to go through the door, you might find yourself in a completely different place or situation than if you had decided not to go through the door. In this scenario, it seems like your decision about whether or not to go through the door is entirely up to you. You weigh the pros and cons in your mind and come to a conclusion. Or do you? Maybe your decision to go through the door was actually influenced by something else, like the fact that you were hungry and saw a pizza restaurant on the other side of the door. Or maybe you were thirsty and saw a fountain. Maybe you were feeling adventurous and wanted to see where the door would lead, or maybe you just couldn't be bothered to think about it and decided to flip a coin instead. Whatever the reason, it seems clear that your decision about whether or not to go through the door wasn't entirely up to you. It was influenced by outside forces. Okay, so maybe we're not always as in control as we think we are. But doesn't that just mean that we have more free will than we realize? Not necessarily. You see, there's a difference between being influenced by something and being caused to do something. For example, if someone points a gun at your head and tells you to go through the door, your decision to go through the door was still your own. You chose to do it despite the risk, because that's what you wanted to do. But what if the person hadn't pointed a gun at your head? What if they had just asked you very nicely to go through the door? Or what if they had simply suggested that you go through the door and then walked away without saying anything else? In these scenarios, you were still influenced by the other person's actions, but your decision to go through the door was still your own. You could have easily decided to ignore them and do something else instead. So, does this mean that free will exists? Not quite. Just because you can make decisions independently of others doesn't necessarily mean that you have free will. After all, your decision to do something could be based on a number of factors, such as your upbringing, your beliefs and values, your past experiences, and even your genetic makeup. All of these things have had an impact on the way you think and behave, which means that your decisions aren't entirely up to you. They're the result of a complex interplay between nature and nurture. So, are we ever truly free? Unfortunately, the answer isn't so clear-cut. There are plenty of situations in which it seems like our decisions are completely our own. We choose what we want to wear, who we want to be friends with. But even in these seemingly simple matters, there are a variety of factors that come into play. For example, your decision about what you want to eat might be influenced by your hunger, your mood, the time of day, and the food you have available to you. Your decision about what you want to wear might be influenced by the weather, the occasion, and your personal style. And your decision about who you want to be friends with might be influenced by your shared interests, values, and experiences. In each of these cases, your decisions are the result of a complex interplay between inside forces. Your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, and outside forces, your environment, your relationships, and your circumstances. This is the idea of determinism. It's the belief that all events are caused by prior events, and that everything that happens is the result of a chain reaction that began with the Big Bang. If you believe in determinism, then you don't have free will. Your decisions are made for you by a complex web of factors beyond your control. On the other hand, if you believe in free will, then you're responsible for your decisions. You could have chosen to do otherwise in any given situation. But what if there's another explanation? What if our decisions are actually predetermined, but we're not simply puppets of outside forces? What if we have an internal locus of control? Side 2. No free will. Imagine a world where every decision you make, every action you take, is already predetermined. A world where you're not in control of your own destiny, but rather a pawn in a much larger game. Sounds scary, right? Well, what if this world isn't just a figment of your imagination, but the reality you live in every day? Philosophers and scientists have long debated the question of whether or not we have free will. Some argue that we're simply products of our environment, while others contend that we're the masters of our own fate. But what if the truth lies somewhere in the middle? What if our decisions aren't entirely random, but are instead the result of a complex interplay between our genes, our environment, and our experiences? Our genes influence our temperament, our personality, and even our behavior. Our environment shapes our beliefs, our values, and our attitudes. And our experiences create memories that stay with us long after the event has passed. When you consider all these factors, it becomes clear that our decisions aren't simply our own. We're the sum of our parts. And our decisions are the result of a complex interplay between all the different parts that make us who we are. So, does this mean that we don't have free will? Not necessarily. Just because our decisions are influenced by outside forces doesn't mean that we're not in control. Think about it. When you make a decision, you're weighing all the different factors involved and deciding what matters most to you. You might decide that your friends' opinions are more important than your parents' opinions. Or you might decide that the potential risks of a certain decision aren't worth taking. Ultimately, the decision is yours. You're in control. This is the idea of compatibilism. It's the belief that free will and determinism aren't mutually exclusive. You can be both a free agent and a product of your environment. But what if our decisions are influenced by something else, something we can't see or feel or measure? What if our decisions are influenced by quantum mechanics? Quantum mechanics is a branch of physics that studies the behavior of matter at the atomic and subatomic level. One of the key principles of quantum mechanics is that everything is in a constant state of flux. Particles are constantly moving, changing, and interacting with each other. This means that the world as we know it is in a constant state of change. Nothing is static. Everything is always in motion. But what does this have to do with free will? Well, according to some, our decisions are the result of quantum fluctuations in our brain, tiny changes that happen at the subatomic level and that we can't control. These fluctuations create tiny changes in our brain activity, changes that eventually lead to our making a decision. But if our decisions are the result of quantum mechanics, does that mean that we don't have free will? Not necessarily. Quantum mechanics simply provides another possible explanation for how our decisions are made. Ultimately, the question of whether or not we have free will is a philosophical one. There is no scientific consensus on the matter, and ultimately, it is up to each individual to decide what they believe. What do you think? Do you have free will, or are your decisions predetermined by outside forces? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.